It's a big week for Gonzaga. They beat Kent State earlier in the week in a hard-fought ball game. Now you've got Pac-12 state rival, the University of Washington Huskies, who are off to a good start. They beat St. Mary's earlier this season, who, if you follow the Zags, obviously, you know how good that program has been over the years. But this UW team is trying to find their way after their starting center, Frank Kepnong, is out for the season with a knee injury. This should be a fun one. Alongside Adam Morrison, I'm Dan Dickau on Gonzaga Nation SI. Mo, it's Husky Gonzaga week. It's always brings a lot of memories. I know for myself, having transferred from UW, you had some battles with the Huskies while you were there. We'll get into both of that. But does this game excite you in any way?
Yeah, I think it's good, state rivalry. I think UW is better this year than they have been in the last couple. 7-2, obviously they haven't played murderer's row of teams like we have, but also, you still got to win basketball games. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good contest. Hopefully, obviously we get the win on Friday, but then we can root for them to be successful later in the season. So it turns into a tournament resume helping win. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, because I think that, to be honest, that staff is kind of on the hot seat as far as I'm concerned on having some success here. In this, the last time they made the NCAA tournament was 2019, and before that was 2011. So they haven't had, it's been a decade plus since this program has been where it should be, in my opinion. So I think this year is, vital for UW to be successful in some manner.
And UW's kind of an interesting program because they've had so much individual talent, but it always hasn't translated to wins, where some fans get excited about that individual talent and getting them to the pros as opposed to producing NCAA tournament opportunities and wins, where I think over the years, Gonzaga has been NCAA tournament, and as it's built, it's become more pros. You played against some of those really good UW teams 12, 15 years or so ago. Brandon Roy was on the team, Will Conroy. If I remember correct, you had a battle with Brandon Roy. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we played them first 2 years. We played them my freshman and sophomore year. We won, and then we lost. My junior year had 40 something, and they ended up getting the win. It was a game at their place. Derek Ravio got hurt early, and I still give Jeremy crap about this. He had 8 turnovers as a freshman coming in. He just couldn't handle the point guard duties like he can now. But yeah, it was a fun atmosphere. They had such, so much talent on those teams. It was Brandon Roy, Nate Robinson, my sophomore year, Bobby Jones, who sniffed the NBA, Trey Simmons, who should have been in the NBA but played for Maccabi, you know what I mean? So like, there were some really, really good basketball teams. And it was a fun rivalry. And that's when Coach Romar was doing it, who I love seeing down at Pep. I don't know if I'm sure you've talked to him, but I always run into him when we're calling those games, and we always just tell the same stories over and over again. But it's just fun seeing him like in the hallway, because he's just such a cool dude. You know what I'm saying? Just laid back and kind of gets it, players coach. So I always like seeing him. And but anyway, yeah, hopefully this rivalry can continue, because it went away for a while. But yeah, there were some good battles back when I was playing.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to part of this game on both sides. Started at University of Washington before coming to Gonzaga, and I saw the transformation of Gonzaga's program in the early stage. An opponent. My freshman year, when I was at UW, we played them at UW, got the win at Heck Ed, and then my sophomore year, we came to Spokane, played them in the Spokane arena, and Gonzaga absolutely boat raced us. And this was UW. We were ranked at the time. I think we were ranked 17th or so. Gonzaga, this was the year that they made that Elite Eight run. And, some of the guys on that Gonzaga team, Casey Calvary, Zach Gord, who was redshirt, and Richie Fromm, those were friends of mine. And I remember specifically in the hallway at Spokane Arena after the game, talking with Coach Few, who was an assistant under Monson at the time. And I was thinking to myself, because I was struggling at that time wanting to transfer, but not ready to do it yet. And I almost asked Coach Few about how that process would work, but he had told me, you guys are going to figure it out. You're going to be okay. Lo and behold, about 2 weeks later, my season was done with a broken foot. UW, we did make the NCAA tournament, lost in the first round, but GU made the Elite Eight. The rest is history. I was able to transfer over, be a part of the rivalry from, I guess you could call it the good guy side, the Zag side. So lots of interesting memories for both of us in this game and in this series. That kind of brings me to how they play is such a unique style. Coach Hopkins played under Coach Boeheim at Syracuse and then coached under him for a number of years. They just, I don't want to say they roll the ball out on offense, but they give their top guys a lot of freedom. And then defensively, that zone is a monster to figure out. What are your thoughts in attacking such a unique extended zone?
Yeah, I think to beat that 2-3 zone, you have to put your skill players in the middle, and the traditional way to doing it is always putting your 4-man and then your 5-man in the short corner. But if you've watched teams that have beat Syracuse, and obviously UW thing, Coach Hopkins, is you put a skill guy in the middle, no matter what his size. Could be your point guard, could be your wing, and then obviously you try to get to the middle, but that guy's got to be able to make 8 to 12 foot floaters, kind of is what the shots you get. And if you can make those, you kind of get them more packed in. We've had success against it in past, as far as obviously UW, and when I mean success is the scheme. You get what I'm saying? Like the 2-3 zone of how they run it. They kind of pin everything to the middle too. It's weird. They extend out and then they force stuff kind of the opposite way than you normally would. So again, the point is, like, you got to be really patient. You can't take, play ring around the rosy and take contested threes. You have to get penetration through the pass or obviously the dribble, but it's got to be a skill player at the high post who gets a catch. Obviously can make your passes off of that, or 8 to 12 foot floaters is what you get. And, obviously Coach Few and the staff has those guys rep those type of shots, or that should be in your bag anyway. So it's only scary if your guys play rushed, if that makes sense. There will be gaps. So there will be opportunities, like I said, to get penetration with the pass. And then it makes the defense completely collapse. But it is always interesting because you rarely see people play 2-3 zone for more than 3. I mean, when's the last time Gonzaga's been zoned? It's just, you don't see it as much anymore. So it'll be an interesting test for us, scheme wise.
There's been a ton of talent, as we talked about, that has come through both programs. Obviously, we know the Zag pros as well as anybody. The UW to the NBA pipeline has been long and well documented. Is there one? I want to get your take on if there was maybe one or two former Huskies that you looked at them and said, "Man, I would have loved to have seen them, in a Zag uniform, whether as a teammate or maybe just, as a fan watching the Zags."
I mean, I think probably like the Zag player that everybody would probably recognize was like a John Brockman kind of type. I mean, he was a hustler type, grinder type of player, I guess, when he played there. But I mean, like, Brandon Roy was fantastic. Obviously, he almost chose Gonzaga. That's kind of an unknown fact. Like, it was down to UW and Gonzaga. He actually took a visit and was considering it. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys. They were just so talented that I think all of them would have been fine at, Gonzaga.
Yeah, that B. Roy visit to Gonzaga, he hung out at my apartment for most of his visit. Great guy. I got to know him a little bit more in the NBA when we were teammates, but you and him as a kind of a wing duo would have been literally unstoppable at the college level. That would have been a nightmare for opposing coaches for sure. I agree with you on the John Brockman one. I think the one that I think would have been almost a perfect would have been Matisse Thybulle. Just kind of that kind of no nonsense, plays extremely hard. That was at that time frame where Gonzaga had a lot of smaller kind of wings and perimeters, but he would have added length and size, and you never know that he could have been the missing piece for a team or two to make an even deeper run.
Absolutely. Yeah, great defender, obviously having a great career in the NBA. He would have fit right in.
Well, Mo, appreciate the time as always. Gonzaga Nation SI keeps rolling on. We had some terrific games leading up. Next week, when we connect, we will be talking about Northern Illinois and another big time game where the Zags head to Birmingham, Alabama, to play the Crimson Tide. So I'm sure you'll be traveling down for that one. So prepare to travel safe. But appreciate the time, and we'll connect again soon.